The Great Hall of Prime was the most beautiful place in the known galaxy. Crystal pillars rose 300 meters into the air. Light danced through them like liquid gold. The floor was made of polished stone that showed the reflection of everyone who walked upon it. For 12,000 years, this hall had been the center of galactic power. Every important decision was made here. Every species that wanted to matter had to come here and bow before the Dominion. Today, the hall was full. Ambassadors from 40 different species sat in their designated areas. The insect-like clicked their mandibles in quiet conversation. The water-dwelling mylar floated in their transparent tanks, their tentacles moving slowly. The tall, skinned stood perfectly still like statues. All of them were here for one reason. They wanted to see the humans make fools of themselves. Captain Ho Park stood at the center of the presentation platform. He was a man of average height with short black hair and calm eyes. He wore the simple uniform of Earth Space Command. No medals, no decorations, just clean lines and practical fabric. Next to the flowing robes of the delegates and the ornate armor of the warriors, he looked plain. He looked small. He looked exactly like what they expected from a species that had only discovered faster-than-light travel 40 years ago. Behind him stood his team. Chief Engineer Bai was a woman in her early 40s with glasses and steady hands. She had spent 15 years building the reactor that powered their ship. Beside her was Lieutenant Ho, their navigator, young and nervous but brilliant with numbers. And there was one, the weapons officer, whose face showed no emotion at all. Above them a holographic image slowly rotated. It showed their ship, the Perseverance. The laughter started almost immediately. It began with the delegates in the front row. Their bodies were humanoid but taller, with skin that shimmered like mother of pearl. Their eyes were large and purple. When they laughed, it sounded like wind chimes in a storm. Soon, the other species joined in. The clicking of the bubbling sounds from the mylar tanks. Even the silent allowed small smiles to cross their faces. The Perseverance was not a beautiful ship. It was angular and blocky, covered in thick plates of dark metal. It had no curves, no elegance, no grace. It looked like someone had taken a cargo container and stuck engines on it. Compared to the crystalline ships that moved through space like dancers, it was ugly. It was primitive. It was a joke. High Arbiter rose from his throne at the far end of the hall. He was the oldest in the room, with skin that had faded to a soft silver color. His robes were white and gold. When he spoke, his voice carried to every corner of the massive space. "This is the vessel that humanity has spent 40 years building," he asked. His tone was polite, but his purple eyes sparkled with amusement. "This metal box." Ho did not react. He had expected this. They all had. "The Perseverance meets all requirements for independent species classification under galactic law," he said. His voice was calm and clear. "It is capable of faster-than-light travel. It can support a crew of 200 for extended missions. It carries defensive and offensive systems. We are here to request formal recognition of Earth as an independent spacefaring civilization." Tilted his head slightly. "Defensive and offensive systems," he repeated. "Tell me, Captain, what weapons does your ship carry?" "Magnetic acceleration cannons, missile systems, point defense arrays." More laughter. The military advisor leaned over to whisper something too. Both of them smiled. "Projectile weapons," said slowly, as if explaining something to a child. "You throw metal at your enemies. How charming." Bai's hands tightened into fists at her sides. She had designed those weapons. She knew exactly what they could do, but she stayed silent. This was not the time. "The Dominion has used directed energy weapons for 8,000 years," continued. "Our ships cut through asteroids with beams of focused light. Your little metal balls would bounce off our shields like rain off a window." He paused for effect. "But I suppose every species must start somewhere." The laughter grew louder. An ambassador made a comment in his clicking language that translated roughly to wondering if humans also still used wooden clubs on their Ho waited until the noise died down. Then he spoke again. We understand that our technology appears primitive by your standards. We are a young species. We have much to learn. He paused. But we have come a long way in a short time. 400 years ago, we had not yet invented the electric light. 200 years ago, we had never left our planet. 40 years ago, we touched the stars for the first time. And now we stand here in the heart of the greatest empire in the galaxy, asking only to be recognized as equals. Smile faded slightly. There was something in the human captain's voice. Not anger, not fear, something else. Something that made the old uncomfortable for a reason he could not name. Equals, said softly. He let the word hang in the air. Then he shook his head. You are not our equals, Captain, not yet. Perhaps not ever, but... He raised one elegant hand. Galactic law is clear. Any species that achieves independent faster-than-light travel must be recognized. Your ugly little ship has met the minimum requirements. Therefore, humanity is hereby granted provisional membership in the galactic community. He said it like he was doing them a favor, like he was throwing scraps to a begging animal. Provisional, Ho repeated. For the next 100 years you will be observed, monitored. If you prove yourselves worthy, you will receive full membership. Until then, you are guests in our galaxy. You will follow our rules, you will respect our borders, and you will remember your place. Ho nodded slowly. We understand. Good, settled back into his throne. You may leave. I am sure you are eager to return to your and share the good news. His voice dripped with false kindness. Such an achievement for your little species. The human delegation walked out of the great hall in silence. Behind them, the laughter continued. Some of the delegates were already forgetting about them, moving on to more important matters. Humanity was a minor curiosity, a brief entertainment, nothing more. In the corridor outside, Ho finally spoke. That was humiliating, he whispered. It was supposed to be, Bai replied quietly. One looked at Ho. Sir, do you think they suspected anything? Ho glanced back at the great doors of the hall. Behind them, the most powerful beings in the galaxy were still laughing at the thought of humanity ever being a threat. No, he said, a small smile crossed his face. They didn't suspect a thing. The Perseverance was not just a ship. It was not just a proof that humans could travel between stars. It was a test, a carefully designed experiment to see exactly how the galaxy would react to them. And now they had their answer. The galaxy saw them as nothing, as weak, as primitive, as a joke. Good, Ho thought as they walked toward their ship. Let them keep thinking that. Let them keep laughing. They would not be laughing for long. 6 months passed after the presentation at Prime. Life on Earth continued as normal. People went to work. Children went to school. The news talked about the usual things. Most humans did not think much about the galaxy beyond their world. They knew there were aliens out there. They knew humanity had been accepted as a provisional member of some kind of galactic community. But it all felt very far away. That changed on a Tuesday morning in March. Defense Minister Holly was in her office when the message arrived. She was a woman in her 50s with hair pulled back in a tight bun. She had served in the military for 30 years before moving into politics. She had seen wars. She had made hard decisions, but nothing had prepared her for what appeared on her screen. The message was from the Dominion. It was addressed to the leadership of the human species. It was not a request. It was not an invitation. It was an ultimatum. The planet designated 442b, currently occupied by human colonists, has been determined to contain strategic resources vital to the interests of the Dominion. The human population has 30 standard rotations to evacuate the planet. Failure to comply will result in pacification measures. This decision is final. Ha read the message 3 times. Then she picked up her phone and called an emergency meeting of the United Planetary Council. 2 hours later, the most powerful leaders on Earth sat around a circular table in Geneva. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, scientists, All of them had read the message. All of them had the same question on their faces. What do we do? Admiral Sung-min stood at the front of the room. He was an older man with a face and tired eyes. He had commanded the Perseverance's fleet operations since the beginning. He knew better than anyone what humanity was facing. 442b is our first colony, he began. 12 million people, 17 years of work, farms, cities, hospitals, schools, an entire civilization built from nothing. He paused. They want us to abandon all of it. Can we fight them? Someone asked. Sung-min shook his head slowly. We have one interstellar ship, the Perseverance. It was damaged during our return trip from Prime. Even at full strength, it is just one vessel. He pulled up an image on the main screen. The Dominion has over 40,000 warships. Any one of their battle cruisers is 3 times the size of our ship. Their weapons can fire beams that cut through asteroids. Their shields can block almost anything. Silence filled the room. Then what are they sending to take our colony? Ha asked. Sung-min changed the image. A single ship appeared. It was beautiful in a terrible way. Crystal spires rose from its hull like frozen flames. It seemed to glow from within. One diplomatic cruiser, he said. The Eternal Dawn. It will arrive in 28 days to oversee our evacuation. One ship, a general leaned forward. They are sending one ship. That is how little they think of us. Sung-min's voice was heavy. They believe one ship is more than enough. They believe we will simply obey. Because in their history, every species has obeyed. Every species has known that fighting the Dominion means death. Ha stood up. She walked to the window and looked out at the city below. Normal people living normal lives. None of them knew that their future was being decided in this room. What about the Perseverance's weapons? She asked. The systems we did not show them. The room went very quiet. Sung-min hesitated. Minister, if we reveal those systems, there is no going back. The Dominion will know we deceived them. They will know we are a threat. They will send their full fleet to destroy us. They are already destroying us, Ha replied without turning around. Just slowly. Taking our colony is only the beginning. In 100 years, they will take everything. They will turn us into servants like all the other species. She finally turned to face the room. Unless we show them that we are different. This could start a war we cannot win, the Secretary General said. No, Ha shook her head. It will prevent a war. They respect only one thing, power. They need to see that we have it. They need to understand that attacking us comes with a cost. Captain Ho Park had been silent until now. He sat in the corner of the room, still wearing his simple uniform. When he spoke, everyone listened. The Perseverance was never designed to win a war against the Dominion, he said calmly. It was designed to prove a concept, to show what human technology can do when we apply our way of thinking to problems. He looked around the room. Our ancestors fought with swords when others had guns. They fought with guns when others had bombs, and they kept fighting. That is who we are. We adapt. We improve. We survive. He stood up. One ship against one ship. That is a fair fight. Let me take the Perseverance to 442b. Let me meet the Eternal Dawn, and let me show them exactly what humanity is capable of. Ha looked at Sung-min. The Admiral's face was troubled, but he slowly nodded. It might work, Sung-min admitted. One battle, one demonstration. If we destroy their ship quickly enough, decisively enough, it will send a message. And if we lose? The Secretary General asked. Ho smiled slightly. It was not a happy smile. Then you will have 30 days to evacuate 12 million people, but we will not lose. The vote was taken. It was unanimous. 3 days later, the Perseverance lifted off from Earth's orbital dock. The damage from the previous mission had been repaired. The weapons systems that no one in the galaxy had ever seen were fully charged. The crew of 200 knew exactly what they were flying into. In the command center, Ho sat in his captain's chair. Bai was at the engineering station. One was at weapons, Ho was at navigation, and beside the captain's chair stood a small woman named Mi Song, the ship's sensor officer. She had the sharpest eyes in the fleet. Course plotted for 442B, Ho reported. Arrival in 18 days. Ho nodded. Take us out. The Perseverance turned toward the stars. Behind it, Earth grew smaller and smaller until it was just another point of light. In the quiet of the ship, Bai moved to stand beside Ho. "Do you think we can really do this?" she asked softly. Ho did not answer immediately. He watched the stars streaming past on the. Each one was a sun. Each one might have planets. Each one might have people looking up at the sky and wondering what was out there. "I think," he said finally, "that we have no choice but to try. Our ancestors faced impossible odds many times. They fought against empires that seemed unbeatable, and somehow they survived." He looked at her. "We are their children. Their blood runs in our veins. If they could do the impossible, then so can we." Bai nodded slowly. Then she returned to her station. The Perseverance flew on through the dark space between stars. In 18 days, they would reach their colony. They would meet the ship, and the galaxy would learn that humanity was not going to disappear quietly. The laughter of Prime still echoed in Ho's memory. He could still see the smiles on those alien faces, the mockery, the disrespect. Soon, he thought, very soon they would learn. Humanity did not beg. Humanity did not bow. Humanity did not surrender. Humanity fought. The eternal dawn dropped out of hyperspace like a god descending from heaven. Light bent around its crystal hull. Energy rippled across its shields. It was 3 kilometers long and beautiful in ways that human ships could never be. Every line was perfect. Every surface glowed with power. Commander stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. He was tall even for a, with skin the color of polished silver and eyes like purple gems. He had commanded the Eternal Dawn for 200 years. In that time, he had 11 species and brought 23 worlds under Dominion control. He had never lost a battle. He had never even come close. This mission was beneath him, really, overseeing the evacuation of a primitive human colony. It was work for a junior officer, but the High Arbiter had insisted. The humans were new, unpredictable, better to send someone experienced. What a waste of time, thought as he looked at the blue-green world below. 442B was a beautiful planet, rich in minerals, perfect for expansion. The humans had done good work terraforming it. They had made it ready for its new masters. "Commander," his sensor officer called out, "we are detecting the human vessel. It is already in orbit." Allowed himself a small smile. "They came to meet us, how brave." His voice dripped with sarcasm. "Perhaps they wish to beg in person, open a communication channel." The flickered. A moment later a human face appeared, dark eyes, short black hair, a calm expression that showed no fear. "This is Captain Ho Park of the Earth vessel Perseverance. You are in space claimed by the human species. State your intentions." Almost laughed. "State my intentions. Little human, I think you misunderstand the situation. I am commander of the Dominion. This planet now belongs to us. Your people have 26 days to evacuate. I am here to ensure your compliance." "We will not evacuate." The smile faded from his face. "Excuse me. 442B is a human colony. 12 million of our people live here. We built this world. We will not abandon it because you ordered us to." Leaned forward. "You cannot be serious. One ship against the Dominion. You understand what will happen if you resist." "I understand perfectly." "Then you are either very brave or very stupid." Stood straight again. "I will give you 1 hour to reconsider. After that, I will demonstrate what happens to species that defy us." The screen went dark. On the Perseverance, Ho turned to his crew. Their faces were pale but determined. They all knew what was coming. "Battle stations," he said calmly. "Buy status on the reactor." running at optimal capacity. We have full power to all systems. 1. Weapons. All tubes loaded. Targeting computers are active. We are ready. Ho nodded. Ho, keep us between the eternal dawn and the planet. We protect the colony at all costs. Understood, Captain. Mi looked up from her sensor station. Sir, they are not even raising their shields. They do not consider us a threat. Good, let them underestimate us until the last moment. The hour passed slowly. On the eternal dawn watched the human ship with growing irritation. It had not moved. It had not tried to run. It simply sat there, ugly and still, as if it actually believed it could stop him. Foolish creatures, he muttered. They have chosen death very well. He raised his hand. Weapons target the human vessel. Fire when ready. 3 crystalline beam arrays hummed to life along the eternal dawn's hull. Energy gathered at their tips, growing brighter and brighter until it was almost painful to look at. Then, with a sound like singing glass, 3 beams of concentrated light shot across space toward the Perseverance. On the human ship, Mi called out the warning. Incoming fire, 3 beams. Ho did not move. Hold position. The beams hit the Perseverance directly. They should have cut through the hull like a hot knife through butter. They should have turned the human ship into vapor in seconds. That was how it had always worked. That was how every battle against inferior technology had ended. But the beams did not cut through. They hit the angular dark plates of the Perseverance's hull and spread out like water hitting a wall. Energy scattered in all directions. The ship shook slightly but remained whole. Silence fell on the Eternal Dawn's bridge. Stared at his purple eyes were wide. What happened? The beams, they did not penetrate, his weapons officer said, voice shaking. Their hull, it absorbed the energy. I do not understand. That is not possible. Fire again, all weapons. The Eternal Dawn unleashed everything it had. 5 more beams, plasma torpedoes, graviton pulses. The space around the Perseverance lit up with enough firepower to destroy a small moon. When the light faded, the human ship was still there, scorched, dented, but intact. On the Perseverance, Bai looked at her readouts. Hull integrity at 92%. Thermal plating absorbed most of the energy. We can take a few more hits, but we should not push our luck. Ho nodded slowly. Then he spoke a single word. Demonstrate. One's hands moved across his console. Along the hull of the Perseverance, the dark thermal plates split open. They revealed rows of long metal tubes pointing outward like the spines of an angry beast. These were not energy weapons. These were magnetic acceleration cannons. They used powerful magnets to shoot pieces of tungsten at incredible speeds. The technology was simple. Primitive, the would say. But in space, where there was no air resistance, a piece of metal moving fast enough was the deadliest thing in the universe. Firing, one said. 48 tungsten rods, each one the size of a man's arm, shot from the Perseverance at 12% of the speed of light. They crossed the distance between the ships in less than a heartbeat. Commander had just enough time to see them coming on his. He had just enough time to realize that his shields, designed to stop energy weapons, could not stop physical objects moving that fast. He had just enough time to understand that everything he knew about warfare was wrong. Then the Eternal Dawn ceased to exist. The tungsten rods punched through the crystalline hull like bullets through glass. They did not stop. They kept going, tearing through deck after deck, destroying everything in their path. The beautiful ship that had terrorized dozens of worlds came apart in seconds. Its reactor lost containment. A flash of white light filled the sky. When the light faded, there was nothing left but expanding gas and floating debris. On 442b, 12 million humans looked up at the sky. They had seen the flashes of light. They had felt the tremor in the ground when the debris started entering the atmosphere. And then they saw the Perseverance, their ugly little ship, flying down through the clouds in a victory pass. The colonists cheered. They screamed. They cried. They had been told they would have to leave their homes. They had been told there was no hope. And now, somehow, impossibly, they were saved. In the command center of the Perseverance, the crew sat in stunned silence. They had done it. They had actually done it. A single human ship had destroyed a cruiser in seconds. "Damage report," Ho finally said. "Minor hull damage. One tube is jammed. Life support is fully functional." Bai looked up from her console. "We won." Ho did not celebrate. His face was serious. "We won one battle," he said quietly. "The first battle in a war that is just beginning." He looked at the debris field on the. "When the Dominion learns what happened here, they will send everything they have. This is not the end. This is only the start." "Then what do we do?" Ho asked. Ho was silent for a long moment. Then he stood up. "We go home, we tell them what we have learned, and we prepare for what comes next." He looked at each member of his crew. "Today, we prove that humanity can fight back. Tomorrow, we will prove that humanity can survive." The Perseverance turned away from 442B and began the long journey back to Earth. Behind it, the remains of the eternal dawn drifted in space, a warning to anyone who thought humans were weak. The galaxy was about to change. The news of the eternal dawn's destruction traveled faster than any ship could fly. It moved through communication relays and trading posts. It passed from species to species in whispered conversations. By the time the Perseverance reached Earth, the entire galaxy knew what had happened. A human ship had killed a cruiser. Impossible, unthinkable, and yet true. On Prime, High Arbiter received the report in his private chambers. He read it 3 times. Then he threw it across the room with enough force to shatter it against the wall. "How?" he demanded. His voice echoed through the crystal halls. "How did primitives with projectile weapons destroy one of our ships?" His military advisor, a young named, stood at attention. His face was pale. "We are still analyzing the debris, High Arbiter, but it appears their weapons use magnetic acceleration to fire solid projectiles at extreme velocities. Our shields are designed to stop energy. Physical objects moving at those speeds simply pass through." "Then adjust the shields." "It is not that simple. Our entire defensive doctrine is based on energy weapons. Changing it would take years, decades." Slammed his fist against the wall. Cracks spread through the crystal like spider webs. "Send a fleet," he said. His voice was cold now, controlled. "Send 300 ships. I want Earth reduced to ash. I want every human colony burned. I want this species erased from existence." "High Arbiter, are you certain? Such a response might make the other subject species nervous. They might begin to question our control." "They will question nothing when they see what happens to those who defy us." Turned to face his advisor. "The humans embarrassed us. They made us look weak. We must respond with overwhelming force. There can be no mercy, no negotiation, only destruction." "Bode, it will be done." 300 crystalline warships gathered in space. It was the largest fleet assembled in 1,000 years. Each ship was larger and more powerful than the Eternal Dawn. Together, they had enough firepower to destroy entire solar systems. Against them, humanity had exactly one damaged prototype vessel. The fleet jumped toward Earth. On the Perseverance, still limping home on damaged engines, the crew received the news. 300 ships, 2 weeks away, coming to destroy everything they loved. Ho called a meeting in the small conference room near the bridge. His senior officers gathered around the table. Their faces showed exhaustion and fear, but also determination. "The situation is clear," Ho began. "We cannot stop 300 ships. Even if we had 100 Perseverances, we could not win a direct battle. The Dominion will reach Earth. They will reach our colonies, and they will try to destroy us." "Then what do we do?" one asked. "Run, hide." "That is not who we are." "Then we fight and die." No, Ho looked around the table. We changed the game. He pulled up a star map on the display. At the center was Prime, the heart of the Dominion. Around it, 40,000 ships protected the most powerful world in the galaxy. No enemy had ever reached it. No enemy had ever tried. They think this war is about destroying us, Ho said. They are wrong. This war is about showing the galaxy that the Dominion is not as powerful as it seems, that their empire is not untouchable. You want to attack Prime? Bai's voice was barely a whisper. I want to reach Prime. I want to stand in orbit above there and show every species in the galaxy that it can be done. The Dominion's power comes from fear. If we can break that fear, even for a moment, everything changes. Mi shook her head. The defense grid around Prime has over 2,000 weapons platforms. We would be destroyed in seconds. Maybe, maybe not. Ho pointed to a section of the map. The radiation belt around the star, every species avoids it. Their navigation computers are programmed to go around it, but our engines work differently. We do not use the same fuel. The radiation will not affect us the same way. Ho leaned forward, studying the map. You want to fly through the radiation belt, come at them from an angle they do not expect. Exactly. By the time they realize we are there, we will already be in orbit. And then what? We cannot fight 2,000 platforms. We will not fight anything. Ho's voice was calm. We will deliver a message. We will show the and everyone watching that humanity reached the heart of their empire with a single ship. Then we will leave. If we can leave, one said quietly. If we can leave, Ho agreed. But even if we cannot, think about what our sacrifice would mean. The subject species have served the Dominion for thousands of years because they believed resistance was impossible. If we show them that one ship can reach Prime, they will start to wonder. They will start to hope. And hope is the most dangerous weapon in the universe. The room was silent. Each officer was thinking about what the captain was asking. He was asking them to fly towards certain death. He was asking them to gamble everything on a moment of defiance. Bai spoke first. The engines are damaged. I do not know if they can handle the radiation belt. Can you fix them? She hesitated, then she nodded slowly. I can try. Then try. Ho looked at each of his officers in turn. I will not order any of you to come with me. This mission is voluntary. If you want to return to Earth and be with your families, I understand. You have already given more than anyone could ask. No one moved. Finally, one laughed softly. It was a strange sound in the tense room. Captain, we all joined this crew knowing we might not come home. We all understood what this ship represents. He straightened in his chair. I am not leaving. Neither am I, Mi said. Or me, Ho added. One by one, every officer in the room declared their loyalty, not because they wanted to die, but because they understood what was at stake. If humanity fell, it would fall fighting. It would fall with its head held high. Ho felt something warm in his chest, pride, gratitude, love for these people who were willing to give everything. Thank you, he said simply, all of you. He turned back to the star map. Prime glowed at the center like a challenge. Send a message to Earth, he ordered. Tell Minister Ha that we are not coming home. Tell her that the Perseverance is going to the heart of the Empire. And tell her, he paused, tell her to be ready. When the fleet arrives at Earth, they will be looking at us. They will be confused, angry, afraid. Use that fear, make them hesitate, make them doubt. The message was sent. Earth received it 12 hours later. In Geneva, Holly read the words on her screen. Her hands trembled slightly. Ho and his crew were flying to their deaths. They were sacrificing themselves to give Earth a chance. She wiped her eyes. Then she stood up and called another emergency meeting. Earth had work to do. Meanwhile, the Perseverance changed course. It turned away from home and pointed its nose toward the heart of the Dominion. Behind them, a fleet of 300 warships raced toward Earth. In front of them, 2,000 weapons platforms waited around a world that had never known fear. And between them, one ugly, battered, beautiful ship flew on through the dark. It was not supposed to reach its destination. It was not supposed to survive, but it was going to try anyway. That was the human way. 9 days. That was how long it took to reach Prime. 9 days of pushing engines that were never meant to run this hard. 9 days of sleepless nights and endless repairs. 9 days of knowing that each moment might be the last. Bai spent most of those days in the engine room. Her hands were burned from touching hot metal. Her eyes were red from exhaustion. But she kept the Perseverance flying. She talked to the reactor like it was a living thing. She begged it. She threatened it. She loved it. On the 5th day, a coolant line burst. Bai fixed it with tape and spare parts from the kitchen. On the 7th day, one of the magnetic coils started to fail. She rebuilt it using metal from her own cabin door. "You are keeping us alive," Ho told her on the 8th day. She looked up from her work. Her face was covered in grease and sweat. "The ship is keeping us alive. I am just helping her along." Ho smiled. "Then help her a little longer. We are almost there." On the 9th day, the Perseverance reached the edge of the system. In front of them was the radiation belt that surrounded the star. It stretched across space like a wall of fire. No ship in galactic history had ever crossed it intentionally. It was death. It was madness. It was their only path. "Entering the radiation belt in 5 minutes, Ho announced. His voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. "All crew to secure stations," Ho ordered over the ship's communication system. "Seal all compartments. This is going to be rough." Mi watched her sensor screens fill with static. "I am losing external readings. Once we enter, I will be blind." "That is acceptable. They will be blind too. They will not see us coming." The Perseverance entered the radiation belt like a swimmer diving into stormy waters. Immediately, the ship began to shake. Alarms screamed. Lights flickered. The hull groaned under stresses it was never designed to handle. In the engine room, Bai held onto a railing with white-knuckled hands. The reactor temperature was climbing. Too high. Much too high. But she could not reduce power. They needed every bit of thrust to push through. "Come on," she whispered to the ship. "You can do this. I know you can." The radiation tore at them like invisible claws. It scrambled their electronics. It heated their hull until some sections glowed red. It tried to kill them with every passing second. But the Perseverance was built by humans. It was ugly and angular and covered in thick plates of metal because humans knew that space was hostile. They did not build ships to be pretty. They built ships to survive. After 6 hours that felt like 6 years, the shaking began to ease. The alarms went quiet one by one. The lights stopped flickering. Mi's sensors came back online. She stared at her screen in disbelief. "We are through," she said. "We made it." And there, directly in front of them, was Prime. The planet was beautiful. Blue oceans and green continents covered its surface. Great cities sparkled like jewels along its coastlines. Orbital stations and defense platforms surrounded it in layers of protection. It was the heart of the greatest empire the galaxy had ever known. And the Perseverance was in orbit above it. 2,000 weapons platforms are targeting us," Mi reported. "They have not fired yet, I think. I think they are confused. They do not understand how we are here." "They are waiting for orders," Ho said. "No enemy has ever reached this world. They have no protocol for this situation. We have maybe 2 minutes before they figure things out." Ho stood up from his chair. "That is more than enough time." He looked at his communications officer. "Open a channel, all frequencies, override everything. I want every subject species, every being in this system to hear what I am about to say." The channel opened. Ho's image appeared on millions of screens across the planet below, in homes and offices and government buildings, in ships and stations and military command centers. The face of a human captain, standing on the bridge of his battered ship, broadcasting from the sky above the most protected world in existence. He began to speak. People of my name is Captain Ho Park. I come from a planet called Earth. 6 months ago, your leaders laughed at us. They called us primitive. They said our ship was a joke. They told us we would never be their equals. On the planet below, citizens stopped what they were doing. They stared at their screens. This could not be happening. This was impossible. Then your empire tried to take our colony. They sent a ship to force us from our homes. That ship is now dust floating in space. And now, a single vessel from the species you dismissed stands above you. In the High Arbiter's palace, watched with a face that had turned. His hands gripped the arms of his throne so tightly that the crystal cracked beneath his fingers. Your fleets are hunting empty space. Your mighty armada is rushing toward Earth while we sit here, looking down at everything you have built. Do you understand what this means? Do you understand what we are showing you? Ho's voice grew stronger. You are not untouchable. Your power is not absolute. A single ship from a young species reached the heart of your empire. Imagine what we could do with 10 ships, 100, 1,000. Fire screamed at his military commanders. Destroy them now. But the commanders hesitated, because if they fired, the human captain might have time to launch his own weapons, and they had all seen what those weapons did to the eternal dawn. We are not here to destroy you, Ho continued. We could have come with weapons ready. We could have fired on your cities. We chose not to because humanity does not want war. We want peace. We want respect. We want to live alongside you, not under you. He paused. His eyes seemed to look directly at through the screen. But hear this clearly. If you come for our world, if you threaten our people, we will not run. We will not hide. We will not surrender. We will fight with everything we have. And we will reach you. No matter how far you go, no matter how many ships you send, we will find a way. That is who we are. That is what it means to be human. The message ended. The screen went dark. On the Perseverance, Mee's voice cut through the silence. They are charging weapons. All platforms are preparing to fire. Impact in 30 seconds. Ho did not sit down. He stood tall and looked at his crew. Maximum power to engines. Get us out of here. Use the radiation wake from our drive to scramble their targeting. Go. Ho's hands flew across his console. The Perseverance's engines roared to life with every bit of power Bai could give them. The ship shot forward, not away from the planet but through the formation of defense platforms. It was suicide. It was brilliant. The platforms fired. Beams of light and bolts of energy filled the space around them. But the Perseverance was moving at full speed, its drive emissions scrambling sensors and throwing off targeting computers. Shots that should have hit missed by meters. Shots that hit struck at angles that the hull could survive. We are through the inner ring, Mee shouted. Outer ring in 10 seconds. The ship shook violently. Alarms screamed. A section of the hull vented atmosphere before emergency seals closed. 5 seconds. Hold together, Bai whispered in the engine room. Just a little longer. Outer ring cleared. We are in open space. Jump, Ho ordered. The Perseverance activated its faster-than-light drive. Space bent around it. And then it was gone, leaving behind a stunned empire and a message that would echo across the galaxy forever. In the silence that followed, stood alone in his palace. His fleet was racing toward Earth, but the humans had already proven that distance meant nothing. They could be anywhere. They could reach anything. For the first time in 12,000 years, the Dominion felt something they had never felt before. Fear. The fleet arrived at Earth on a morning in April. 300 crystalline warships filled the sky like angry stars. They were beautiful and terrible. Each one carried enough weapons to burn continents. Together, they had the power to end humanity forever. Admiral Sungmin watched them from Earth's orbital command station. He was an old man standing against an impossible force. Behind him, a handful of defense satellites and one badly damaged ship were all that stood between his people and extinction. The Perseverance had returned just hours before the fleet arrived. It was held together by tape and hope. Half its systems were offline. Its hull was and burned from the radiation belt, but it was still flying, and Ho Park was still alive. Now the captain stood beside the admiral, looking at the wall of enemy ships on the. "They are not attacking," Sung Min said quietly. "They have been here for 20 minutes. Why are they not attacking?" "Because they are afraid." Sung Min turned to look at the younger man. "Afraid of what? They have 300 ships, we have one." Ho smiled slightly. It was a tired smile. He had not slept in days. "They have seen what our one ship can do. They watched us reach there. They know that if we die here, we might take a lot of them with us. And more importantly, they know that every species in the galaxy is watching." He was right. Across the Dominion's territory, subject species were glued to their screens. The Mylar, the dozens of others, all of them had been conquered. All of them had believed resistance was impossible, and now they were watching to see what would happen to the species that dared to fight back. "If the Dominion destroys us," Ho continued, "they prove they are still powerful, but they also prove that we were a real threat. A species that started from nothing, built one ship, and forced the greatest empire in history to send 300 vessels just to stop them." He paused. "That is not a victory. That is an admission of weakness." A communication signal flashed on the console. The fleet was hailing them. Sung Min opened the channel. High Arbiter's face appeared on the screen. He looked old, tired. His silver skin had lost its shine. "Humans," he said. His voice was heavy. "You have caused more damage to our empire in 6 months than any species has caused in 12,000 years. Your single ship has killed one of our commanders, humiliated our military, and shown the galaxy that ours is not as safe as we believed." "We did only what we had to do," Sung Min replied. "You threatened our people, we defended them." Was silent for a long moment, then he spoke again. "The fleet I sent here could destroy your world in hours. Your cities would burn, your people would die, and in 100 years no one would remember you existed." He paused. "But it would cost us. Many of my ships would be lost. My people would question why we sacrificed so much to destroy such a young species. And the subject races," he stopped, started again. "The subject races would remember. They would remember that humanity fought until the end. They would remember that we needed 300 ships to kill you. And some of them might start to think that if humans could do it, maybe they could too." "What are you saying?" Sung Min asked. "I am saying that you have won, Admiral, not by being stronger, not by having better weapons, but by being willing to die, by making the cost of your destruction too high for us to pay." His voice was bitter. "My advisors tell me that you have already begun building more ships, that in 10 years you will have a fleet of your own, that in 50 years you might rival us." "We do not want to rival you," Ho said, stepping forward. "We want to exist. That is all we have ever wanted, the right to live in this galaxy as equals." Studied the young captain's face. "Equals," he repeated. The word seemed to pain him. "No species has ever been our equal." "Then perhaps it is time for that to change." The silence stretched between them. Seconds felt like hours. Finally, made a small gesture with his hand. "I am recalling my fleet," he said quietly. "Earth will not be attacked. Your colony at 442b will remain yours. In exchange, you will agree to limit your expansion to systems we designate. You will share your magnetic weapon technology with the Dominion, and you will join us as," he struggled with the word, "as partners in maintaining galactic peace." Sung Min looked at Ho. The captain nodded slightly. "We accept," Sung Min said. The Treaty of Equal Standing was signed 3 months later on neutral ground. It was the first time in history that the Dominion had acknowledged another species as equals. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The ambassadors celebrated openly. The Mylar changed their traditional songs to include verses about the brave humans. Even the silent were seen nodding in what might have been respect. But the real change happened slowly, over years and decades. Humanity built more ships, not to conquer but to explore and trade and connect. They shared their technology freely with any species that asked. Their magnetic weapons became common throughout the galaxy. Their ugly, angular ship designs were and improved upon. The subject species began to change too. Some asked for more rights, others demanded them. The Dominion, weakened by the conflict and afraid of appearing weak again, had no choice but to compromise. Slowly, the Empire became something new, something more like a federation, not perfect, not ideal, but better than before. 10 years after the Battle of Earth, the Perseverance II was launched. It was sleek and fast, combining human engineering with crystal technology. Captain Ho Park stood on its bridge, older now, within his hair. Beside him was Bai, still the finest engineer in the fleet. "Where do we go now?" she asked him. He looked at the stars stretched out in every direction. Endless possibilities, infinite potential. "Everywhere," he said. "We were given a chance to survive. Now we have to earn it. We have to show the galaxy that humanity is more than a threat. We have to show them what we can build." "And what is that?" Ho smiled. It was a real smile this time, full of hope. "A future together, not as conquerors or subjects, not as enemies or victims, but as partners. The Dominion spent 12,000 years ruling through fear. We have a chance to try something different, to show that strength comes from cooperation, not control." Bai nodded slowly. "That sounds like a lot of work." "It will take generations, centuries, maybe longer." He turned to face her. "But that is what humanity does. We build, we grow, we reach for things that seem impossible, and somehow, against all odds, we make them real." The Perseverance II hummed around them. 200 crew members from a dozen different species worked together at their stations. Human and Mylar, all serving on the same ship. It would have been impossible 10 years ago. Now it was just the beginning. "Set course for the Andromeda observation post," Ho ordered. "Let us see what else is out there." The ship turned toward the distant stars. Behind it, Earth shone blue and green against the blackness of space, a small world that had changed everything. They had been laughed at, dismissed, threatened with extinction, and they had survived. Not just survived, they had thrived. The prototype that everyone mocked had become the spark that changed the galaxy. One ugly ship, one stubborn crew, one moment of defiance that echoed through history. And now, for the first time in 12,000 years, the future belonged to everyone. Not to empires, not to conquerors. To hope. To partnership. To humanity.